Hey minions, welcome to Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and on this episode of the Gauntlet, I want to talk about Kung Fu Fighting Samurai. Today is Black Friday in the United States, a day that used to be really meaningful for me, but today mostly has disappointing sales. When you consider what Black Friday used to be, before it was cool and everyone knew about it, you know what I mean. In the spirit of disappointments, let's talk about Kung Fu Fighting Samurai. This is hard for me because I like this team. They can be really good together. But if I'm really being honest, this is probably my least favorite team in the tournament. That doesn't make them the last seed, and I haven't begun to really invest myself in seeding just yet. But the overlap just isn't as great as I'd like it to be, and I'm not as excited about them as I'd like to be. Inevitably, someone was going to get shortchanged, and I think it's these two factions. Trying to come up with 32 teams that are all at the desired strength level, but still relatively close in strength, is really hard. Also, having them be at the same level makes the seeds rather meaningless, because there should be a difference. Kung Fu Fighting Samurai are a good team that I believe will ultimately get outpaced by better teams, but they still deserve a chance. If I had do-over powers, this would be my do-over, as I hate putting two top-heavy teams together. What do the Kung Fu Fighters want? It seems like they want more power counters, and it's great to have them, but they really don't, because they can generate their own, and have a lockup problem that can stop their generation. Instead, they want cards that help ensure that they get their engine going. If you think back to last year, they steamrolled into the Final Four by having excellent draws, then crashed when they didn't. The Kung Fu Fighters are really top-heavy and require a number of cards to get an engine going. They really need the Dragon Warrior and Expert Timing, which have a crazy way of being on the bottom of my deck whenever I play them. To help with the card draw, I gave them Samurai. The Samurai are also an odd faction in that they don't have many natural partners. Everyone I could give them would make another combination problematic or take away a combination I really loved. But they do have the potential for good card draw between the Samurai Chen and Honor the Fallen. This team lacks that big standout play, but trades it for consistent plays with some interesting nuances. One of the things I found interesting about them is that they have competing double features, but the choice between the two abilities is intriguing. Would you rather have +2 power and the ability to return your minion, or +3 power and draw a card? Do I want to repeat a great minion, or take a chance on a better minion or action being drawn? Because the Samurai can initiate duels, I find that having 4 terminal actions as double features is actually not that bad. For Heart of the Battle, Fast of Lightning is a win-win situation. It is played during scoring, so barring something crazy or being moved off the base, that minion is going to the discard pile. Either it will score, in which case it will be discarded and go to your hand, or it will be destroyed for losing the duel, in which case it will go to your hand instead of the discard pile. It is possible to completely set this up in Phase 2, but the flexibility of having it in Phase 3 is great. The Bushis are a subtle chance for VP farming because they can give you an additional VP in service of breaking a base, and the Kung Fu Fighters make it so easy to ensure that they are Power 5. While the Samurai can add power counters, they cannot do it often, and ensuring it with a power counter is so important because if you wait for a terminal action and that base scores unexpectedly, you walk away with no additional VP. There are so many ways to make this happen. You can transfer a counter yourself, place a counter with one of your many actions, allow your opponent to create the counter with oh ho ho ho. I even like Bushi as an expert timing trap because you can play him on a base without a counter, and a player will rush there trying to break the base, only for you to use expert timing to send a bunch of power there, steal the base, and get an additional VP. When I talk about synergy, I'll often talk about making bad cards better. Ronin is a bad card for me, particularly since Drunken Master can more easily reach the same power level, but can also be an engine. But I feel like the inability to play minions before they reach their potential slightly helps Ronin, as it means you will likely save your crickets until they do something. Samurai Chan is a decent casualty for everybody with Kung Fu Fighting, as the only way to avoid getting destroyed yourself is to have your Dragon Warrior, and players will want to avoid it. At least you are getting a card. When you need to take out a powerful engine minion, this can be a quick way to provide a base reset and get something out of it. In the absence of Samurai Chen, I think that the crickets are a decent victim for Yokai Attack, since they are unlikely to have the power counters themselves. You can transfer a counter onto one of your engine minions so that they may use their talent again, particularly Lady Whirlwind, then Yokai Attack it to lose the minimum equity necessary to play another minion in action. Final Haiku has always been a difficult card for me because it requires not quite expert but very good timing. It is a global +2 power boost, which means that you can spread out to achieve maximum effort, but the samurai themselves lack the large power burst needed to make this work. But the Kung Fu fighters have the means to make it work. They can spread out to allow more times for their engines to fire. They can transfer power from base to base, and recycle that power to get multiple bases at the same time. If you make 2 bases close to breaking, you can use Dragon Warrior to send over many counters to finish that base off, then use expert timing to send many counters back to the other base to finish that base off later in the turn, while having Final Haiku trigger from the first base. Another odd card is Honorable Combat, which needs you to be losing on a base, but you want to win the duel for a VP. I find that a little bit frightening works well here when you have a base with multiple small minions, as you can play one of your minions, which can easily be 4, then duel a low-powered minion, destroy another low-powered minion with a little bit frightening, and win the VP. Because you can transfer the power counters, you don't have to waste a terminal action on the duel. I also like how you can loan a completely unrelated minion power with Ancient Chinese art, since you just have to be losing and can duel any minion, then steal it back with your other copy, a Cricket or Dragon Warrior. Finally, this team can provide counters to factions that rarely have one. The Kung Fu fighters eat through factions that rely on power counters, as they can turn that power against them. They also have moderate destruction, and a means to get to higher power thresholds. Way of the Warrior is actually really good for Lady Whirlwind, as that temporary power gives her a large range to destroy a minion. It's great to precede expert timing, because you can move the counters off her and destroy a powerful minion at the last second. One of the problems with this combination is a lack of movement. They can pivot, particularly using Yokai Attack, but that doesn't solve the key issue of needing proper alignment of minions and actions. Ancient Chinese arts are critical as they enable the Drunken Master and Lady Whirlwind to repeatedly use their talents. If you break the alignment of these minions and actions, their minions will be stuck, and they will become just slightly above average power minions. Also, Ancient Chinese art typically wants another minion to receive the counters, which has to be on the same base, as it can only transfer counters vertically, not horizontally. That means that you are adding a lot of power creep on a base, which is what forces the spreading out. Dragon Warrior solves this problem because he can transfer horizontally, but you are relying on the samurai drawing to get him. The team has the potential to add power that the opponent can utilize for breaking bases. The strength of this team lives and dies with Dragon Warrior. Another problem with this team is that there are so many plays that I like with expert timing, but I can only use it once. They have no action recursion, and only one straight minion recursion and other convoluted minion recursion. It's great having a chance to recur Dragon Warrior, the key to the faction, but it's either low in chance or a little too complicated for comfort. Both of these factions are extremely top-heavy. Their 3s are too similar. The 4s and 5s will do all the heavy lifting, and drawing nothing but 2s will really hurt you. The samurai card draw needs to go a long way. The word I would use to describe this team is either gritty or scrappy. They have to do the little things right and can surprise you. They aren't always going to hit home runs, but if they can play small ball, like transferring a counter here or there, destroying a key minion here or there, or tricking you with a surprise counter transference, they can hold their own. Of course, there's a reason why my scrappy Atlanta Braves teams never make it past the first round of the postseason anymore, so I'm just not confident in this team's ability to go that deep. They still deserve to be here, and anything can happen, as games are played one at a time. At the end of the day, having a true underdog is not the worst thing, because if they do well, then it will be pretty exciting, and if they get knocked out early, then we're not accused of crushing everyone's bracket. I hope that I presented a realistic portrait of this team, as there are still things to like, but I never want to overhype anyone. What do you think of the Kung Fu Fighting Samurai? Let me know in the comments. Next week we'll take a look at 2 of the most annoying teams in the tournament, ones that are sure to make you want to rage quit unless you can defend against them. That's it for this team. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's shut it down.